What is Syndra's win rate? Is she popping off? Oof. Oh my god, we're gonna be in a...
who you got winning worlds?
Are we really gonna be in a worlds meta with Syndra, LeBlanc, TF, Ahri, Sylas? Oh man, just slam a Kali in there somehow and we've got a mega patch. Wait, it's the patch of Showmaker! I thought Yone would be OP on this patch. But I guess against champs like Syndra, LeBlanc, it's mega annoying. Oh, which mid laners are going to get really fucked by this meta? Who's going to suck on a Syndra, Yone, Talia meta? Someone's going to suck. Who is it? Chovy doesn't play Syndra. Wait, Zeka is kind of fucked. Has Chovy never played Syndra, really? He's played 2 games of Syndra and lost both. Wow. Wow, that is bad for him. That is bad. Zeka has 3 games, so it's not as bad. But Showmaker loves Syndra. He loves Syndra. So that's big for Showmaker. This is a great Showmaker meta. Syndra LeBlanc is his bread and butter. He likes Sylas, he likes Ryze, he likes TF, he likes Talia. This is his meta. He's been struggling early against his Ahri. Looks like a bit shit. But he's been struggling a lot against all these AD mids. Oh, I don't know how EU's going to do on a Syndra meta. Pog, let's go, man. Where's Faker Syndra? Bro, he has so many games played. 80%, 10 games. I think Caps and Humanoid do like Syndra, though. Oh my god, Caps has been spamming Syndra. Syndra Orianna. Wait, the mid meta is gonna be great if it's Syndra Orianna Ryze. Man, I love watching. So, let me try and draw it for you. So, let's take Ryze for example, right? Ryze loses to champs like Orianna and Syndra. He gets outranged by mages, right? Things like Cassio, really annoying. Azir is okay because he doesn't do that much damage. But Ryze is good in champs like Sylas and TF because he outtrades them and they're shorter range. But Sylas is good into TF, but mages can be good into Sylas, right? So you have this weird meta going on, and then LeBlanc is like in her own world, where LeBlanc functions differently, and she's good into champs like Orianna and Cassio maybe, and Ryze especially, if you have kill pressure, if you have like a stronger jungler. And then into TF, you have other counters other than just Sylas, like Tristana, who's great into TF, because you just perma push him on the tower, and he can never move from his tower, right? But Tristana can get fucked by champs like Cassio. So the mid meta, and Hui is just, I mean, he's kind of like a mage as well. He kind of fits in here. And then you have champs like Ahri and Talia, who, I mean, to be honest, in 1v1, Ahri versus Orianna, for example, Ahri's kind of outranged. She can like get the push a little bit, but Orianna, it's quite hard for Ahri to play. Similarly for Talia, they're both kind of roamy mages that just get outranged, and it's really difficult for them to play against champs like Syndra, Orianna. I'll get rid of Cassio for now, because she's not really going to be meta at Worlds. So Orianna, Syndra are really good into Ahri, Talia, but Ahri, Talia are really good in champs like Sylas, TF. So it's weird when it comes to blind picking mid. So when you look at this, right, you think Ryze is a good counter pick, but gets countered by mages. Sylas and TF are like good champs, but they have pretty rough counter picks as well. And then you then kind of like go back down the ladder, and the best blind picks at Worlds, by the sounds of it, are going to be Orianna and Syndra. And then this is how blind pick mid looks like it'll be. I mean, Talia kind of works. And Ahri kind of works if you have... I'll put Hui as well, just in case. This is depending on jungle. And then it depends on what your champ pool is. How confident are you, you know? Do you want to play... Talia Ahri when they pick Orianna Syndra? Do you want to match Orianna Syndra, which we could see a lot, like Orianna Syndra handshakes? You could play things like LeBlanc, if you have a good jungler as well. And then you have champs like Ryze, where if the team has something like Sejuani and they want a melee mid, then Sylas can fit in. If they have champs like Viego and they need a roamer and they go for TF, this is where Tristana can fit in. And these counters kind of come out, right? So I think if Orianna Syndra are the blind picks, maybe Galio could be played, actually. I think about it. If Orianna Syndra are the blind picks, you'll either see them handshake Orianna Syndra, or you'll see teams pick LeBlanc, Talia, Ahri. if you pick anything else, it's really difficult to play the game. It's really, really difficult to play like TF into Syndra. TF into Syndra is very dependent. For example, like TF is a very move speed focused champ, right? You go boots early, you build things like Mercury Treads. So if they have something like Syndra Sejuani, then TF actually becomes playable. You don't get the push and you lose early, but you go Merc Treads first item. You don't have much damage, but if you have a good jungler like Viego, this is where TF's playable, right? Because you can play TF into this, sack the lane phase, and then you're more useful on the map and you can start to get the push, right? Where does Yone fit into all of this, I feel like? I feel like Yone is... So from my understanding, Yone opens up a bit more of a mid pool, where Yone is a really strong champ and is blindable if Renekton is down. If I pick Yone on blue side and you have Renekton flex, it's really annoying for the Yone. Otherwise, I think Yone is pretty much fine into everything. With Doran Shield, the fleet buffs, you know, he has a potion, he has Absorb Life. When I say fine, I say like he can get through the lane, like he's fine. He's not going to have insane pressure like 1 to 5, but until then, he's like a scaling side laner, so he's okay. I think Yone fits into comps, obviously, where you have champs like Sejuani as well, or you have AP junglers. He kind of fits into with Vi a little bit. But that's, I think, what the meta is going to go in the direction of. I mean, obviously, it also depends because the way metas work is it expands on it, right? So, for example, Jarvan is a good pick. Every champ has like a branch that it causes. If you pick Jarvan and you ban Poppy, a good champion to Jarvan is Lee Sin, right? Lee Sin is a great champion to Jarvan. So you could see Lee Sin being played at Worlds, mainly into Jarvan. And if you're playing champs like Lee Sin, this unlocks champs that are necessary. You need TF, you need LeBlanc, you need Syndra. And so if you're blinding one of these champs, then obviously there's counters, right? If you blind TF, you're going to get hit by Tristana or Sylas. If you blind LeBlanc, you're probably going to get hit by Lissandra, which is like a very unique counterpick to LeBlanc. If you blind Syndra, you're probably going to hit by Orianna. Another old school counter of Syndra, which people used to play, there's 2 old school counters. One was Echo, and one was Fizz. These champs were really annoying for Syndra because what happens is the lane phase is fine, but when you get out of lane, Syndra can't catch side waves because she's under too much threat of being chased in a long lane, if that makes sense. Okay? I don't think we'll see Fizz at Worlds. Small chance someone plays Echo maybe, but the way the game works, it's quite simple, right? If this is top lane, and I want to catch a wave and push out and both towers are dead and Echo or Fizz is here, the lane is so long that Syndra, if she uses QE and it's dodged, then they can just chase her through the lane with her cooldowns and there's nothing she can do because they'll have Merc Treads and, you know, Fizz E and Echo ult really functions annoyingly. I think you can remember a very good example of this is... this game.
XDD Garlic.
Where you play Echo into Syndra, and you can see the map state for Syndra. It's really tough for her. You'll never see Syndra catch this top wave ever. It's really hard for her. If Echo's there, it's really hard. Syndra has to perma group, and every time Syndra groups, she needs cover, because watch what Echo can do on side lane. Like, Syndra can't play against it. Echo outscales her too hard, and he just ults her ult, and there's nothing she can do. This is obviously this is 30 minutes into the game, but this is kind of how this matchup works. But if you look at the early game, Syndra's fine. You'll see that she'll probably have like mid push in the early stages. Syndra scales a bit better now because of the changes to her, but like in the early lane, Syndra's fine. It's not under too much threat, but yeah, back in the days, Echo was a very good pick. You rush Merc Treads and then yeah. So the way metas work is like, if champ becomes strong, it essentially makes other champs strong because they're good into that champ, if that makes sense. So the meta will be weird, and this is the problem that pro players have, is they have to sit there and play so many games and repeat so many different like iterations and so many different variables of champs that could happen and could do this and could do that. And if I blind that, they play this. If I do this, they do that. If I do that, and the way you learn League is you kind of learn the formulas almost. You learn like the branches of how the champ picks work. This is like a good example of mid. Another good example of jungle is like, for example, remember how I said Jarvan's good? I mean, Lee Sin's good into Jarvan, and Lee Sin's good into like Olaf jungle of old school. And then you have champs like Poppy, which are good into Jarvan, but they're pretty bad into Olaf jungle. And then you have champs like Ivern, which are good into Sejuani. And Sejuani's pretty good into Lee Sin in pro play. And then obviously Ivern gets counted by like AP farming junglers because he can't punish them. So then if you play like Nidalee into Ivern, that's good. But Lee Sin is actually pretty good against Nidalee because he has kill pressure. And then you have champs like Xin Zhao, which fit into this meta. And then Xin Zhao gets counted by champs like Kha'Zix. That's why you saw Canyon pick Kha'Zix. But Lee Sin's good into Kha'Zix. And then against Xin Zhao you have Poppy. But Poppy's bad against Trundle, who's good against Poppy and Sejuani. And like... jungle is just this big fucking all these champs are all these massive circles.
XCD.
So the way drafting works is I want to pick Jarvan. Can I pick Jarvan? And then you go through the levels, okay? You go through the levels with your player. I'll say their levels. I don't know. The best way to describe it is I want to play Jarvan in this draft because let's say they have Jinx, Syndra or something. And I want to play Jarvan because I want to like obviously they're immobile carries. How do I get Jarvan and not lose value? I ask my jungler, can you blind Jarvan? And if he says to me no, if they pay Poppy or Lee Sin, I'm fucked. Okay, well I have to invest 2 bans for Jarvan now. Okay, that kind of sucks. If I'm picking Jarvan, let's say I'm red side and I'm on 1, 2, 3, and on 3 I pick Jarvan. Now do I have to invest 2 jungle bans if they have like, let's say they have Jinx, Syndra, and let's say they first picked, I don't know, Renekton. And my team wants Jarvan on 3. Okay? My team wants Jarvan on 3. Now, I could ban 2 junglers, sure, to stop him from getting things like Poppy and Lee Sin and stuff that are good with Syndra. Remember how I told you before, Syndra functions really well when you have champs like Lee Sin in the meta. So Syndra Lee Sin for Jarvan is fucking horrible to play against sometimes. So you can ban Lee Sin, you can ban Poppy, but now you're not banning out supports maybe, which you want to counter pick on 5 with support. And you're not banning out blind supports, you know, things like Jinx are great with champs like Lulu. Thresh, Tam were like things that could keep Jinx safe. Now I have to ask my support, can you counter these champs? Because I have to ban junglers, right? So the way you learn how to draft in League is you learn every role's iterations. And this is where coaches are like, obviously not every coach knows every role's champs and players will have opinions on matchups, right? Like for example, back in the day, I played against a mid laner called Exile in 2018. It was me, Exile, and Forbidden, okay? And the meta was... it was Vladimir meta. Vladimir mid and Azir. And I would ask... and I would... so when I was a mid laner, I actually thought Vladimir was good into Azir. I thought that was fine. I could play the lane pretty easily back in those days, and I liked it. Exile also kind of agreed, but I think Forbidden was like, nah, Azir smashes him. So you have different opinions, right? And I'm not saying either of us was wrong. Essentially what I'm saying is your player on your team has an opinion of a matchup, right? So if he thinks it's good, then you just roll with it. So if, for example, my player says, nah, I think Jarvan into Lee Sin's fine, like it's fine, I just won't get caught and I can play it, then I don't have to invest a ban. But some players might be like, yeah, no, Lee Sin's pretty good into Jarvan, I have to ban it. So now I have to lose a ban, right? So it depends on what your player thinks. So player opinions are very important. The players will always have preferences and they'll know what matchups are the best for them. From all of their experience of grinding scrims and solo queue, they will know what's good, okay? And so essentially you just have to trust them. So what the coach can do is he kind of has to slot in and out sometimes. If you're a coach with knowledge of that lane, like I feel like I know basically almost every lane pretty well, not to the extremities of like a world-class laner, but I feel like I know basically almost most matchups. I can give my opinion, but they can tell me like, I think it's bad, I think it's good, I think it's bad, I think it's good. And if they say it's bad, you have to pivot. I think it's good, you can go that direction. So yeah. Like for example, back in the days, Lee Sin was good into Olaf, right? Because obviously Olaf farms faster, but Lee Sin into Olaf can't punish Lee Sin because Lee Sin's too mobile. And also in teamfights, like Lee Sin just functions so much differently, right? He just kicks their backline and Olaf can't really do much about it. But yeah, people started changing their way they approach Olaf in Season 8. And Tarzan was the first one to do it. I've spoken about this before. But what he would do is start building things like Redemption on Olaf. Well, Season 8 or Season 7. Maybe it was Season 9, actually. I can't remember. But in that meta, he started building differently on Olaf. He started going... the way to counter the Lee Sin, if they pick Lee Sin into Olaf, was you change your itemization. And the way he changed his itemization in this matchup was he would build Redemption and Knight's Vow. So now Lee Sin's value, just like against, like for example, Kha'Zix and Lee Sin and Nocturne champs that can work into Olaf, now the value's just gone down because all he does is go Ingenious Hunter with Biscuits. So he wins 1v1 and he builds supportives for his carries. And then you're like, well, fucking hell, this matchup's actually bad now because the matchup's gone from he can outfarm me, but I'll find his carries in fights to, well, now he can support his carries and outfarm me and win 1v1 because he has Biscuits. So matchups are good in some ways, but sometimes matchups can change depending on how people itemize, and they can like break matchups. And if you can break a matchup, that's really good. And you can become... Who the fuck is calling me? Hold up. Oh yeah, breaking matchups. That's why I think anyone who can break meta matchups essentially becomes meta defining. Two great examples of recent times is like Zeus. He kind of broke top lane matchups a bit because he became insane at Yone. And that was a huge reason why they won Worlds in 2023. You couldn't blind Yone versus Zeus, which was one of the best blind picks. But everyone else didn't play Yone. So when it came to Worlds last year, if you blinded Aatrox, he would just slam Yone into it. And now the best blind top laner on the patch is now fucked. Another good example is like Beryl. Yeah, his Heimerdinger was insane and pivotal in a matchup where bot push is everything. He's the one who starts busting out Heimerdinger support and getting bot push. So you're sitting in this meta where like this guy has just broken the meta. Like what the fuck do you do now? Do you try and counter Heimerdinger? Do you learn it? Well, I've only got a week of Worlds and I'm in the Worlds semifinals and this motherfucker's playing, well, not this one. Let's say I'm in group stage. This motherfucker's playing Heimerdinger in group stage. Worlds is only 2 or 3 weeks long. Your player needs to either learn Heimerdinger in 2 weeks or he needs to find a counter to it quick. And no one found a counter to it. Everyone had to ban it. I mean, they gave it a go, but yeah.
Pog, let's go, man.
So you can either itemize or you can break it by learning champs or having specific champs that are really good into it. Like Adam's Darius is a good example of something that he can play in certain matchups. Like I think, now I might be wrong here, I don't know it enough, but I think Darius versus Renekton, if you're a very good Darius, you can play that matchup. I might be crazy, but I was hearing someone say that if you play Darius and Renekton well, you can play it. But no one does it. No one. But Adam does. So the Renekton either hasn't played against Darius a lot, which is good for the Darius, or you kind of break their blind pick. If you have a player who plays Darius, now you can't blind Renekton. You're just fucked. So yeah, League's all about how far do you want to go. Because as much as like you put in hours and hours and hours of practice, some of these champions like Darius, you need games. You need so many games. You can't just play 10 games of Darius and win. I feel like Darius and Yone are champs where you need hundreds of games. And then you can really focus up. And that's why grind set's important, right? Because the more you grind, the more you can expand your pool, the more you learn champs. And you can be a 10 on 3 champs, or you can sometimes maybe be an 8 on 8 champs. Maybe you can be a 10 on 1 or 2 champs because they're your one tricks, and then you expand out. But I think the main thing is when you have OTPs and they eventually go to pro, their OTPs, they get a little bit worse at them, but they obviously learn more champs, right? So yeah, meta's a weird thing. Meta is a very weird thing. I think I could sit here for another hour describing to you every role about every champ and all that shit. It's all fucking... Like, Caitlyn is a good example, right? A lot of people say to T1, they say, Gumayushi, you should just blind Caitlyn. Just pick Caitlyn. Just pick Caitlyn. It's so good. Just play Caitlyn Lux. And it's so much more complicated than that, right? What's the counter to Caitlyn? So Caitlyn gets countered by caster ADs. Anything like Ashe, Jhin, Varus, Ziggs, MF, maybe, kinda. These champs are pretty good into Caitlyn because they're caster ADs. They clear the wave faster. They can match her range with their poke. Obviously, Caitlyn's good against champs that are short range. I mean, everyone will know that the hardest counter for champs like Sivir, champs like Vayne, even champs like Ezreal can kind of struggle a little bit for Caitlyn. And then Caitlyn in itself is like a bubble. Now you have to figure out support. Well, where are they going to ban Lux? Yeah, Kai'Sa, for example. Where are they going to ban Lux? When are they going to ban Lux? How can I get Lux? Obviously, Lux is like a big part of Caitlyn. But if the enemy team has got a Blitzcrank play, or they've got a champ like, I don't know, even a Nautilus lane with Kalista, you're essentially like playing 2 different styles. Let's say they play Kalista Naut versus Caitlyn Lux. Bot lane is completely Armageddon. It's like World War fucking 10 in bot lane. Because one side, Caitlyn Lux wants to push, hold the push, and poke. One side wants to all in level 2 onwards. So they need to push and they need to all in. So what happens? The game is all about bot. Both junglers path bot, and that's where the game turns into a really weird state. Let's take Caitlyn Lux versus Nautilus Kalista, for example. Random matchup. Let's say Caitlyn Lux is red side, Nautilus Kalista is blue side. Very fun matchup, but you need to push. So, I want to push on red side. So how do you path?
Ads.
Shut up,
So many fucking ads in it.
Shut up, sorry. So how do you play the game? Caitlyn Lux will get pushed level 1. What do you do as your red side jungler? Do you start on red? Is that what you do? Do you start on red? You could do 3 camps and path down. That's the obvious, right? So you finish bot side. What if enemy jungle does red into your blue and takes your grump? And now he's level 3 first in bot while you're here. Now you have no camps here as a jungler. His camps are up here. How does jungle play? Do you sacrifice your bot lane to get these camps? Or do you hover bot and fall behind? Right? Another option is, what else could they do? How do you reset this? What else could you do? You could, if you wanted to. Another option is you could fucking, you could late invade bot, right? Let's try and split the map. Split the map bot. That's a very classic. What if they 4-man stack to cover your late invade? And they use their top laner as well. Right? What if they're all stacking here to defend their bot side? And then their top laner sacrifices his TP to make sure they have a numbers advantage to stop the invade. That's another option. What if the Kalista Nautilus just lane swaps and they go top? What if the Kalista Nautilus... Another thing that happens a lot is sometimes you'll see games where level 1, everyone runs out of base. You'll see that sometimes. Everyone runs out of base. And they all run bot. Have you ever seen that? Do you know why they do that? It's so that they can get there first. So what the Kalista Nautilus can do is they can come here, level 1. They can put a ward in this bush. And now Caitlyn Lux can't get the push level 1. Because if they get walk up, they're going to get hooked and they die. Because Kalista Nautilus is really strong level 1. So how do you hit the wave? You have to kind of like play in the wave and play a bit back. Which is not ideal. Whereas if the Caitlyn Lux have wards here. And they can be the ones first here, right? Then they can get the push and control the lane a lot better. So a lot of teams will go bot level 1. Another good example of this is Renekton versus Jace top, for example. Renekton versus Jace top. If Jace has this bush with a ward, Jace's level 1 is insane. Whereas if Renekton can get a top bush ward, and here, his level 1's a lot safer. Yeah, the game, you have to learn a lot about the game. There's a lot of random stuff to learn. A lot of random stuff to learn about the game. Jungle pathings, to lane phases, to level 1 lanes, to like the amount of games that can be lost level 1 is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Like luckily they've changed the map here to make it a lot harder to do like camp invades, for example. And you don't see it as much, but it's just an example of how you can cheese to fuck a bot lane, right? Like bot lane is screwed if your jungler does that and your jungler can't enter. But this is why drafting 2 pushing lanes is hard, right? Let's say you're playing Jace top and Caitlyn Lux bot. Well, top lane wants to push, bot lane wants to push, but your jungler's a jungler. Where else are you going to go? If you hover spot, what if enemy jungle like ganks your Jace or dives your Jace and now your Jace loses push and vice versa, right? So this is why sometimes you'll see drafts have sides that are weak side and some champs that are blindable like Renekton or Cassante or Ornn. Mostly Renekton, Cassante, or Gnar, for example, are good on weak sides because Gnar can time his Mega, maybe Mega ult the wave, he can control the wave better because he's ranged. Renekton has a really strong counter dive with his ult and clearing the wave and having healing, and he's got really good trading, he's really strong early, so if you draft a strong bot side, then you know you can play through bot quite safely. Cassante is also pretty impossible to dive. And you can accelerate the game in different ways, right? Let's say my bot lane's winning, my AD carries ahead, and my top lane's losing. I can base, run top, take over top lane. My top lane can base and go here. My top lane's Cassante. He can't get dove, but enemy top lane is a cannon, let's say, and cannon gets insta one-shot on the tower. So this guy's sitting here, my Cassante farming on the tower, and they can't dive him. They're just looking at him with all his chain vests. Whereas my bot lane is fucking far ahead, and their top laner is really squishy and just getting one-shot, right? So now you're in a situation where the enemy team has accelerated the game by basing and swapping lanes. And you have 2 options. Option 1, base and run top and lose out on a wave and be late to top. And when they base and run top, what happens if they base and run bot when they show? Now what? They've swapped again. And this is what happens when you see mismatch of swaps. You see this a lot in pro play. When a bot lane is ahead or winning, you'll see them mismatch lanes. Or if they're obviously losing, they might mismatch lanes, right? Why is saying Pogger? So yeah, it's also really weird. And then mid push is also important, right? Let's say I have Talia mid and they're trying to dive my top laner, and I'm trying to dive their bot laner, whatever it is. If their mid laner has mid push and can fog really easily, he can help on the top dive in the 4v1 so the Cassante can't live. And vice versa, maybe he has Talia ult. If enemy mid's on the tower showing and enemy top's on the tower showing, then he knows that they can only be 3-man bot. And if he has Talia ult, he can cover them. What if they have TP on their mid laner as well? What if their AD carry is playing Ziggs, Caitlyn or whatever and has TP? Like Caitlyn would go TP into Ziggs, right? There's like so many random factors you have to think about. But I think these things are very easy things to know if you play pro play a lot. Or if you scrim a lot. These things just come second nature to you. But you always need to have like a checklist. From meta to game to draft, you always need this checklist in your head.